Hey guys, Mitsuha here from KMG, and I have a bit of a problem. I've become an addict. Now, don't worry, I'm not doing drugs. No, what I'm doing is far worse. I'm talking about an indie horror game from 2017. Yeah, that's right. Today we're going to be talking about Little Nightmares. Now, I must have been living under an enormous rock during this game's release because apparently it was everywhere back then. YouTubers were playing it nonstop, there were tons and tons of theory videos, and it had a rather active fan base. Yet, despite all this, I first heard of the game January 8th, 2021, so a few weeks ago as of the time of recording this. The game was free with Xbox Live Gold, and so obviously I had to try it. I knew nothing about the game, and so I didn't know what to expect. From the name, I assumed it was going to be some kind of horror game, but that was about all I could get from it. Now, I guess I was kind of right about that one, but I think personally I would consider it to be less of a horror game, more so of a suspense-filled game, but, close enough. Anyway, the game is a puzzle platformer which follows a 9-year-old girl named Six who is trying to escape the Maw. The Maw is a colossal ship which travels the oceans of the world, appearing once a year, always at different locations. Wealthy people from across the world board the ship only to eat to their heart's content. Don't worry though, the food's just human meat, so it's nothing too crazy. It's basically like McDonald's. The only difference is that no one has ever lived to tell about the Maw. So again, I guess it's kind of like McDonald's. Now, where do they get all this human meat from? Well, that's not much of an issue for them, as they basically farm children. They not only kidnap children from across the world, but they also have plenty of babies that they raise for a while before killing and eating. Our main character, Six, is trying to escape this for obvious reasons. Or at least I hope they're obvious. I'm assuming that nobody out there wants to be eaten by disfigured, morbidly obese people. Anyway, along her way, Six faces several odd and disturbing opponents. Her first is a man named Roger, or as many people know him, the janitor. The janitor is a bit of an odd fellow. His most notable feature is that he has arms far longer than any human's arms should ever be. They stretch and bend in weird ways, and he uses them to feel his way through his surroundings. And in complete contrast to this, he has very short, practically non-existent legs. Don't worry though, because it gets weirder. His head seems to have caved in on itself a bit as well, as the top half of his head sinks into the bottom half, and the folded skin covers his eyes, blinding him. Because of this though, his hearing is incredible, so be very quiet or he'll probably kill you. The next enemies, our pint-sized heroine faces, are a pair of mask-wearing twin chefs. The chefs are fat, ugly, and for unexplained reasons are wearing disturbing masks that make them look almost somewhat melted. Needless to say, they're far from pleasant looking, and they can be real pains. They'll chase you anytime they see you, attempting to cook you and serve you to the guests. The last major enemy you face in the base game is simply known as the Lady. She seems to be the person running the Maw and serves as the main antagonist of the game. She wears a white mask which seems to contain some kind of magic powers. She's incredibly dangerous and just so happens to also be the most normal looking of all people on the ship, bar maybe Six and the runaway kid. She's dressed to look like a Japanese geisha and is obsessed with beauty. Now there are a lot of great theories out there that go really in depth on all this, but I'll save those for another day. She also takes the role of the game's final boss, being defeated by reflecting her magic back at her with a mirror. Aside from the antagonists, there are also some other interesting parts of the game's story as well. One odd aspect, which has led to a lot of speculation among the community, is Six's appetite. Now, obviously as a small child, she does need to eat. However, it isn't that she eats that leads to the theories and discussion, but what she eats. The first time it happens, she eats bread which is thrown to her from the kid, from the other side of a barred window. The next time, she eats a piece of meat in a cage and is caught by the janitor. Now, many people would argue that the next instance is where it starts to get weird, but knowing how the Maw works, there's a good chance that this may have in fact been human meat, so maybe this is where it starts to get weird. Anyway, later on, Six is once again faced with her insatiable hunger and resorts to eating a rat which had been caught in a trap. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like the most appetizing thing, but who knows, I've never been on the Maw before, so maybe when you're on there, maybe rats are delicious. Anyway, the saddest instance is the next, where a friendly gnome offers her a sausage, but Six instead eats the gnome. If you've played the DLC, then you'll know that this is actually the runaway kid, which makes it that much worse. Lastly, upon defeating the Lady, Six also eats her, seemingly gaining her powers. Following this, Six then walks through a hallway and then a dining room, sucking the life from all the guests, leaving them dead on the floor. She walks up one last staircase and into the light when the game finally ends. Now, this game is by no means long. If you really wanted to, you could probably sit down and beat it your first time in about 4 to 5 hours, depending on how you go about playing it. That being said, don't be turned away by this game's short length, as while it may not be the longest game out there, what it does offer is absolutely incredible and is more than worth dedicating an afternoon to. This game also offers some replayability by giving you different things to find and do while exploring. Not only this, but the optional DLC also offers a solid few hours of content as well. Overall, this is an absolutely incredible game, and I'm so happy that I now know of its existence. A couple of weeks ago, I never knew that I wanted a game about a little kid and a boat full of cannibals in my life, but now I'm glad that it is. After playing through it a second time, I have officially ranked it as my second favorite video game of all time, and I don't see it losing that spot anytime soon. I can't wait to see what the sequel brings to the series, and until then, I will continue to enjoy this masterpiece of a game to its fullest. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys next time.